Okay, I had a chance to look over your lesson plan and the reading for meaning portion, and so why don't you just talk a little bit about your decision to focus on the skill of determining the lesson of the story?
Yeah, so this story really kind of lends itself to a lesson, and like for the students to think critically about the text, because it's about this girl who her family had immigrated from Poland, and unfortunately the girl is made fun of for her last name and her accent, and she doesn't really talk in school, and so it's kind of like they can reflect in that way on what can we learn from the story. And also we're at the end of the book, so we have one more chapter left. So it's a good time for them to think deeply about, okay, what's the author's message, what's the theme and the lesson of the story. So I'm going to focus on the lesson in this text and then move into theme the next day, so they have the chance to kind of identify both. And so that was kind of my goal. So, because we've been doing a lot of inferring recently, and this kind of ties in nicely with that. So, we've been talking about what we noticed about the characters and their thoughts and actions, and we've inferred, why the characters are doing what they're doing and what the characters are thinking and feeling. So now let's use what we've noticed about the situations to
Right, so
determine the
using
lesson.
like what they noticed from the previous lessons and then building it into tomorrow's lesson.
Yeah.
So I guess in terms of your timing, talk a little bit about your thoughts for your modeling.
So for the modeling portion of the lesson, I'm actually going to use a mentor text that is not, because so far I've mostly modeled like within the text that we're reading, but I'm going to use a previously read text, because I think that'll help it to keep it like shorter. We read the Paper Bag Princess as our writing mentor text, but I think I'm going to use it for the lesson just to kind of be like, do you remember how in the story the characters, said this, and that makes me think that the lesson might be. So I'm going to kind of model how and think aloud about how to notice that the characters' actions kind of like guide me towards the lesson of the story. So timing-wise, I really think it's going to be a shorter modeling than I have done in the past, because in the past I've always kind of like read aloud, thought aloud, modeled. This one they already know the story, so I'm just going to be like, let's look back. Oh, let me think aloud about the lesson. So maybe like 8 minutes.
Okay, so using the previously read text will help to decrease that modeling time a little bit. And then in terms of your guided practice, what are you envisioning your tutees are doing during that point?
So during the guided practice, the students are going to read the next section of the text and kind of think about what the lesson they're learning based on how the characters are treating each other and what's happening in the story. So I really want this to be a discussion. Like, so far with the inferring, especially today, like when we did the inferring, we did have a discussion and we were able to build on each other's ideas, but I was kind of involved in the discussion. I want this to really just be more like the two of them talking. And they did, and I feel like I have been improving in that way, especially like in terms of just sitting back and letting them come to, their own understandings and their own inferences. But this is going to be like, okay, what do you think? Like, discuss. And I'll have some questions to kind of guide their thinking, but I want it to be more of like a student-led discussion.
Okay.
So hopefully we can because sometimes I just kind of sit there and stare, and so I'm like, okay, well, like, and then I have the question and prompt, but hopefully if I, have these questions ready to go, and then just, like, say the question and then nothing else.
Okay.
And then, like, just wait, do the whole, like, I'm going to read, I'm going to do something else, and you're going to talk and discuss what they think the lesson is. Because there is so much to go off of in this story that they have enough to, enough text evidence and enough information, I think, to develop a lesson from the story.
So you're really going to focus on, like, stepping back, letting them lead the discussion with each other, providing those questions as a guide.
Yes.
So imagine that you do that, but they're either not talking or they're not coming to like a lesson. What would you envision yourself doing then?
I guess I would have them go back and get the gist of what has happened, and we've talked about that as a strategy. That was one of our lessons like a while ago, like how to get the gist, like asking ourselves, what is this section mostly about, like what is this mostly about, and so using that to help them like recall what actually happened in the story and what's like the most important thing that happened. And so I think if I do that, like kind of prompt their thinking in that way, they could have a better understanding of the lesson. Trying to think, probably just like questioning them, their thinking in that way. Questions like, trying to think, going back and rereading their inferences, like using that as a support if they're not getting it. And then, like, just what do you think about that? Like, so if we got the gist, let's recall what happened in the text. Okay, what do you think about that? And I think that could be a really good, just like, furthering their thinking until they reach the lesson.
Okay, so going back, reviewing, like, the strategies that they've used and the things that they've already done with the text, and then kind of providing that open-ended question, like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that should hopefully be helpful to, like, still keep it student-centered, but, you know, if they're struggling.
Right, a good way to provide the support, but still keep them involved in the thinking. And then just talk a little bit about the closing of the lesson and how you see that going.
So I think they're then going to have some time to read independently and see if they can either add to the lesson that they had discussed with their partner or come up with another lesson that the author was trying to convey. And then afterwards, we will share any additional thoughts that they came up with during their independent reading time and discuss what they learned during their independent reading.
So allowing them time to share what they found, so using that student talk will be an important part of the closing of the lesson.
Right, so including that once again. So, like, you know, they were able to build on each other's ideas during the guided practice and kind of get thinking about the lesson and what the lesson might be, and then reading some more, thinking independently, and then coming back and saying, okay, what can we add? So the discussion or what, how's your thinking changed or what are you thinking now?
And then when they're doing that independent reading, what do you see yourself doing?
I guess, I don't want to interrupt too much. I feel like that's another thing. I'm like, okay, let's just let them read and think about what they, you know. So, and they'll be jotting, like, just on a post-it, like, any additional thoughts or what they think the lesson, how they think they could add to what the lesson of the story is, or if they have another lesson. So, if I notice them jotting, I'll kind of, like, stop to conference with them and just ask, so what do you think, or what are you thinking of adding, or, that's what I'll be doing.
Okay. So trying not to jump in too much, but if you notice that they're jotting something, checking in with them. Yeah. Okay. So, you know, you're going to limit your time with the modeling with a previously read text. You're going to use a lot of student-based talk, having them share their own thoughts and then them practice independently and then share when they're finished. So what would be helpful for me to look at, do you think?
If you could still time the talking, the student talk versus teacher talk, that'd be helpful. Because I'm still trying to work on that even more. And being more cognizant of it. And, I think.
And just do that throughout the whole lesson?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could, just to, like, see. Yeah. Like, obviously I'm going to, you know, it's going to be more teacher talk in the beginning, but, like, my goal would be that it would decrease significantly, and then, I'm trying to think what else.
And then any particular way you want the data taken?
Just, what you had done last time was great. Using, the way it was, that was a nice way to see, like, the comparison between student talk and teacher talk during the different parts of the lesson. That was really helpful. I guess I'm trying to think, I mean, maybe the questions that I ask if they're not getting it.
Okay.
To see, like, if I'm probing their thinking in a helpful way and not, like, giving them too much support. So I guess, like, during the guided practice.
Okay.
An independent practice time, just, like, recording the questions that I'm asking.
Do you want me to record their responses or just the questions that you're asking?
Just the questions,
okay.
Just so I can see if I'm, the type of support I'm providing and if it's appropriate or not.
Alrighty. So I'll time the lesson again and break it down with teacher talk and student talk, and then I will record the questions that you asked during guided practice and independent practice.
Great. Sounds good.
Alright.
Thank you.
Yep.